Enjoy local voices. Enjoy local opinions. All on one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts, featuring some of the DC area's best personalities, pundits, and provocateurs. Earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts you love instantly. With new programs being added every week, don't hesitate. Download Podcast DC now for free. Available in the App Store or in Google Play. Podcast DC. Listen local.
Say It Loud Network presents Corner Table Talk.
Well, hello again, and welcome to Corner Table Talk. Today, I am so honored and excited to have as my guest, Mr. Esai Morales. What's happening, Esai?
Mr. Brad Johnson, how are you? Everything's happening. How are you? Yeah.
I'm doing great, man. Thank you. All things considered, healthy and above ground is a good day. How about yourself?
That's what I say. I'm alive, so that's a good start. How are these trying times?
Man, it's, this is a restaurant, hospitality, food, culture podcast. So, I come from the restaurant industry, Esai, and that's where I've spent my whole life. So, of course, this past year has just been devastating for restaurants, particularly for small business owners. So, it's rough, man. I sold our last place the summer of 2019 to our chef, who's been trying to navigate his way through the openings and closings and health conditions and concerns. And man, it has not been easy. How has it affected you work-wise, travel-wise?
Well, oddly enough, it has not been easy psychologically, but I can't explain it. There's a blessing that I feel like I'm enjoying. And that was in February. I was off to Puerto Rico to shoot a little gem of an indie for 5 weeks or so. I thought that turned into 5 months. And in the middle, just about when we were going to finish about 8 to 9 more days of shooting, our production, which had been one of the only ones still working in the whole of the United States, with like 2 or 3 were left, we finally had to join everyone else's lockdown. And in the middle of that lockdown, I get a call saying, "Hey, when can you get on a plane?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm not finished with this. Find out immediately. So I got into this whole thing. And I said, "Why?" I go, "There's a very big job that wants to hire you, but only if you're not under any other contract," because their actor had just had to step out. Because of the lockdowns and the delays, he was contracted to do something else. And so there's an opening. I'm like, really? But for what? And they said, Mission Impossible. And I'm like, get out. So oddly enough, I got the biggest gig of my life, in a sense, or in many, many years on this lockdown. So I have to be doubly blessed, not only to be healthy, but also to be working. And that's the 1-2 punch right there,
Lot to unpack just in that little bit that you gave us. And I want to come back to a couple of things. But so you mentioned that you were shooting in Puerto Rico. I know that you are of Puerto Rican descent. Where in Puerto Rico were you shooting, Esai? And how was that experience? I know Puerto Rico's kind of gone through a bit in the last few years, to say the least. But what was that experience like, and where in Puerto Rico were you shooting?
Well, we were in the general San Juan area, the metropolitan area, and certain little artsy outskirts of there. A little independent film called Simone, based on a novel that won awards from a Puerto Rican writer about a professor who was kind of lost in life. He's really a writer, but he's teaching at a college and happens to fall in love with a student there, and an older student that's studying writing, and not much older though than usual. A 26-year-old here in my tender age. I get offered this thing, and I read it, and it's pretty hot and steamy and romantic. I thought, well, what the hell? Well, I still have something left here. Let me let me go for it. It's been a minute since I've been playing between the sheets. So on film anyway. So I took this, and what was it? You'd asked me where was it, and what was it? What was the other question?
Yeah, just how it felt to be in Puerto Rico, and with the difficulties that Puerto Rico's had in the last few years. I mean, did you get a sense of anything different there than maybe what you've experienced in the past?
Oddly enough, I had signed on to do this movie years ago, and just to kind of help it get made and stuff. And one of the other reasons was because I wanted to be near my mom, who was in a nursing facility in Puerto Rico. So I wanted to visit her more. But sadly, in 2019, in May, she passed. And then, you know, we still had the movie to make. So it was a bit of okay, this is a risk, you know, but what the heck, I'll do it. It was amazing there. I was there during the hurricane, or before and after. And it's recovered a lot, but not completely. So there's still a feeling of building back from a war-torn vibe. But Puerto Rico was always going to have an energy that says, hey, no matter where we are, we got time to enjoy our life. We have time to party. I don't know if you're from the Caribbean as well or whatnot, but it's a Caribbean thing that, you know, other people around the world share as well. But it's just it's a very festive place. So whether or not you're rebuilding or it's been always good, you know, the people have a joie de vivre, a joy of life that is very, very infectious, and you love it. I love shooting there. There's a certain energy. I mean, look, as a person of color, you understand what it's like feeling like other sometimes. In Puerto Rico, I don't get that feeling. You know, it's just like for folks who go back to the homeland, wherever that homeland is or was. I mean, I think Dave Chappelle talked about going to Africa and not feeling, you know, other, you know, and there's that kind of like, you're back home, you know, people look like you here too. They sound like you. As a matter of fact, you're the Yankee, you know, that's the trip, you know, you're the Yankee over there. And, but it's an incredible place. I wonder, you know, I go, well, I know the U.S. loves Puerto Rico. They might not like Puerto Ricans, but they love the island. They love the natural beauty. And who knows? I mean, many folks get us and other folks don't. And I can understand that sometimes because we are a little bit, we're way out, you know, we're out there. We have our own thing, which is a mixture of, you know, Afro-European and native bloodlines. So we're quite the mix. And very resourceful people. So it was a great experience. I got to stay for 5 months. I couldn't have been in a better place. I was on a condo right by the beach. I would sneak out at night, dodge the cops, and go swimming in the ocean at night. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, there's not a lot of things that challenge your fear, you know, like than swimming in the ocean in the middle of the night, where you don't know what it was that you felt swim past you. I mean, I'm talking like there were times I was like, okay, I'm done. And I paddled back, just like, you know, just swam for the shore. Going, I don't care. I don't care if the cops arrest me. I don't know. I don't want to get eaten alive in the ocean and then nobody find the body kind of thing. I said. So I ended up making friends with somebody there, a tourist from Finland, really cool person who I thought was homeless. And we started talking, and he was in the same boat and, you know, stuck there because of travel. So we became each other's like lookouts, you know, and we'd watch out for the cops and then we'd go. But I needed to swim. I needed to get back in touch with the water, with the ocean, you know. In the day, I would try to get as much sunlight as possible because what they don't tell you, and I think is a crime, that vitamin D deficiency is the number one factor of the folks that are dying. Vitamin D. We're like 70% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. And if you're a person of color at all, but especially if you're black, you need twice the sunlight. You need twice the D from foods than, you know, folks with lighter skin. Well, they need about 20 minutes a day. So, you know, when you tell people to stay indoors and wear masks and do all these things that seem to make sense on the outside, for me, it's counterintuitive if you know real health and real science. So I don't know. I don't want to take this whole podcast over into the twilight zone, but I'll put it to you this way. A friend of mine won the Nobel Prize when he was alive for inventing PCR. And I have a lot more to say about that at a future point if they don't kill me. Anyway, so
well, we don't
you know what I mean,
you, man. Yes,
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. I want to step back first. I want to offer you my condolences for the loss of your mom, and I lost my mom in 2017, and I was
nothing
a mama's
like
boy, and that's a painful one, man. So my deepest sympathies to you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My hair's standing up right now. Yeah, mama's boy. That's what I was too, man. You know.
Yeah, man.
Don't nobody love you like your mama. Okay?
No question, man.
Man, God.
So, yeah, a few things. So I just want to kind of highlight, this is a restaurant, hospitality, culture, food related podcast. But when, I talk to folks like you, man, who have such just a deepness in terms of your experiences, your understanding, your background, for folks that would recognize Esai from so many things, man, I had no idea, Esai, you started, you attended the performing arts school in Manhattan, but in your career, and I don't even know if you've counted, brother, but over 60 television appearances, over 50 movie appearances, going back to 83 and Bad Boys, right up through Ozark and now Mission Impossible. That's phenomenal, man. An unbelievable career and a very busy one. You are blessed, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Amen to that. I have to say, getting back to your foodie situation, I am a foodie. And the problem is that if you're going to work in films, man, you cannot give in to that meal. We have a mutual friend that gets me to eat and drink wine like nobody's business. And then sometimes I can't hang with you, man. I got to cut weight because, the camera adds, it's a flat medium and it adds kind of like 5 to 10 pounds, in some cases 15 pounds to your look. So I'm not as tall as you, Brad. So my, weight goes on very quickly for me. So it's always been a bit of a struggle. And who knows, sometimes I feel like maybe I would have done better if I would have just Brad Pitted it up, and just had that stomach that he had in Thelma and Louise, man. That was like cinematic history for men in working out. It was like, okay, everybody said, okay, the game has changed now. He just took it to another level. And I
think your female friends, Esai, would disagree. I think they probably would say you've done just about everything right. So
well, thank you. It always feels like that. I'll tell you this much, Brad. It always feels like on the outside, people are like, man, you've been working on, amazingly. And yet on the inside, I will tell you, I'll go real deep and dark. There were times where I was wondering how I was going to feed my family. And I was wondering like what my benefits to them would be if I died. Literally, no matter how much you work, you cannot, like when you see people out there, you go, man, I wish I was that person. And you don't know what a person's going through on the inside, while on the outside, everything looks fine.
That's so true. That's so true, man. That's one of my challenges. And, I've been listening to, speaking of podcasts, I'm a big fan of one called 10% Happier. And gentleman Dan Harris is an ABC News correspondent and suffered not quite a nervous breakdown, but an anxiety attack on the air several years ago. And so he started this podcast and he gets into Buddhism and mindfulness and all of that. And one of the segments was about comparing yourself to other people and why that's so detrimental and just when you're out here in the world, and especially, we both, I'm a New Yorker, I'm a native New Yorker. So having grown up there, but also spent time in Los Angeles like yourself. And, we go out to some of the same places and we see people that have had tremendous success. In my opinion, you've had tremendous success, but yet here you are saying that, there've been some struggles that have come with that success as well. How do you deal with that, Esai? How do you self-talk yourself out of that envy, comparison frame of mind?
Man, it's hard. It's hard. Hollywood is an industry dedicated to the illusion of glamour, success, sex appeal. I got to tell you, it wasn't always easy, but it's much easier now. When I was very young and we saw each other out and about there, I would feel like, especially being an actor and who had some notoriety, right? I would feel like if I didn't come home with somebody amazing and great, I wasn't all that. I would go to the clubs, right? And I'd be all lonely and single and like, you don't want to admit that, right? But you're like, man, I wish I had somebody to cuddle up with right now and just kind of like just pour all this love that I have in me. Most of us out there, we really just looking to love and be loved. And it gets turned into this more kind of transactional, like meat market vibe. But the reality is we all want intimacy. We all want to feel like we're cocooned up with somebody special who sees us and who gets us. But in the meantime, who's out there? You know what I mean? It's like, who's out there? How can I get my love on? How can I get my, look at all this. Come on now, don't let this go to waste feeling. And man, I would be so depressed so many times where I just did not want to lower the bar too much, and after a while I realized the envy that I would feel when I would see certain people just coming up. And there's one actor that I saw in a wonderful indie movie from Spain, and I thought he was wonderful. And I'm not, in that vibe, like jealous vibe. So I'm like, man, I went to a screening at a studio and I asked the actor, and he barely spoke English. And I said, listen, whatever you need, if you want to, if you need any help with English or auditions or anything, you let me know. Yeah, we never really talked much. Then again, I saw that actor get blown up by Madonna in a thing, and then blown up in all these movies. Next thing you know, homie could help me, and then here I was. I'm like, hang on a second, here I am thinking I'm the established guy. I've been around. I can show you the ropes. Dude turned out to be Antonio Banderas, who did not need my help. Hello. And in a certain case, actually replaced me in talks for a film that I think he was wonderful in. And because the film was so successful, I thought, okay, well, I can't see anyone else in there. So, good for him. But I know I could have done something too in that. But maybe it was just meant to be. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Just because you don't get what you want doesn't mean you don't get what you need. Absolutely. You see what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So, when he went off and did Zorro, they were talking to me about doing Zorro. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, the Blade of Zorro, and they were talking about me and having Sean Connery play the older man, his mentor, which became Anthony Hopkins, who was also wonderful with Antonio. So, it took a lot of being burned. I said, let's bring it back to food. It took a lot of burnt meals before you can make your masterpiece. Right? In the brainstorm, did you start out automatically killing it with everything you did? Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to interrupt. No, I think that, they say that you learn as much from your failures as you do from your successes, of course.
I'd say you learn more.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
Learn more from your
failure. More pain in the failure, but definitely more opportunity to learn. That's
right. And the funny thing is I have an ism that I tell people. I go, listen, the key to failure is don't let it define you, but rather let it refine you. Mm. And that's the difference between people who fail in life and people who use failure as fuel.
Mm. Esai, you're making me bust out my pen here, man. I'm writing that down. So don't let it define you. It's going to refine you. That, man. Thank you. So I'm gonna segue here to a little just part in just to take a break almost, but I call this little segment short order, to use a restaurant reference for kind of fast food. Fire a couple of quick ones at you and just get your quick response in terms of questions. So, Esai Morales, your favorite meal?
I don't think I could say that on the air. Exotic. My favorite meal. Is there one? I mean, lasagna captures a lot. Lasagna. It's one of those things where if you put a lot in front of me, I will not stop until it's all gone. So I just love lasagna. I love I love the cheeses, the pasta, the meats, the sauces. I would be a vegetarian, but I feel like I'm an O-negative blood type, so I crave meat on a cellular level, even though it's good to take a break, and like clean your filters. My favorite meal, dude. Anything with our mutual friend where we go out to eat, I love sushi. I love, it's just like your favorite Stevie Wonder song or Beatles song, or, what's your favorite hair follicle? I love it all, Papa. I love it all. I eat in a food frenzy, literally, I saw a movie many years ago with Matt Dillon in it called Flamingo Kid. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
From the 80s? I do. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that he was like from the wrong side of town? So when he eat, he was like, I saw that movie and it gave me license to like moan when I eat.
I love it.
That's why our mutual friend loves to take me. I go, nah, you eat. you don't leave your food.
He's very generous with those meals. And it's, lasagna. My mom was Italian. My dad was black. So her lasagna would have rocked your world. Trust me.
Mama.
Yeah.
Oh, so you know what's up.
Yeah. All right. So next question. What is a typical breakfast for you?
Oh, man. I like to, especially if I'm working and I have to lose weight, I like to skip breakfast. But when I eat breakfast, eggs with anything, eggs and cheese, sausage, and then when I'm being healthy, oatmeal with fruit on it. Very good stuff. I hear when I want to clear my system out, if I have my, what do you take, your cholesterol too high? I eat melon. And only one kind. You don't mix your melons. You eat melon, and then any other food after 20 minutes. Melon will kickstart your system and really just do wonders for your cholesterol and other.
What kind of melon, Esai?
There's watermelon, cantaloupe, and honeydew, and then there's this other one from South America. They're very similar. And the key with melons is not to mix them because they contain certain principles that counteract each other or other fruits. So melon, eat it alone or leave it alone was the rule that I had learned from this natural hygiene person, by the way, which I should tell you about. Because after I did a series called NYPD Blue, I had a little time on my hands and I went to a cabin in Pennsylvania in 2004 or something, or 3. And I fasted. Well, first you go on a transition diet with steamed rice and veggies and fruits. And then you go to fruits and you just eat fruits for a few days. And then I went to fruit juices for a few days. And then I did a 5-day water fast, just water with some drops of lemon in it for your electrolytes. And oh my God, the detoxing that I did there added years to my life and made me look younger at the end of this, a few weeks that I spent there. The whites of my eyes became clearer. That's part of what fasting does to you. It gives your body the time and energy to heal itself, because once you stop retoxing, which is often what a lot of food is, because, we're putting so many things that may not always be good for our system into our bodies. So once you stop retoxing, your body goes into overdrive detoxing. And my gosh, it was just amazing. I mean, they wake up in the morning, she takes your blood pressure, checks your tongue and your eyes, and then you just drink water. First thing in the day, drink water. Hydrate yourself, and it gets your digestive system going. And then you eat fruits. Then for lunch, you have a big salad. And for dinner, you have a big salad with good fats with avocados. Man, it's all, really good. And it changed my life. I mean, it made me lighter. It made me more spiritual. It made me feel like another person, more true to myself. So every once in a while, when you feel like you're being overwhelmed, you just stop eating. And when you eat living foods with energy, as opposed to foods that have been overly cooked. Steam your vegetables. Don't make them rubbery. They have to still snap.
Last meal you made for your daughter.
Oh my gosh, what did I make for mine? I think I made them steak when they were in Puerto Rico. Because when they visited me, guess who learned how to cook for himself in the lockdowns?
That would be you.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right. So steak. Go ahead.
Weird. Yeah. But this friend of mine once came over to my house and he whipped up this steak sauce out of nothing. I was like, what? That's like a restaurant quality steak sauce. And how did you do that? He goes, you took some butter, you put this and you put that, and a little this and that, lemon and this. I'm like, wow. So I started experimenting at home and I came up with some, I don't even have names for it. It was like, those are like my 3 sauces. And So I just love sharing with them. Food is so weird because I always thought you had to follow the book by, a pinch of salt can only be a pinch and certain measurements had to be exact. But it's a feel, it's a flow, it's like jazz. Chefs who cook are like musicians. They will take a pot and a pan and make music with it, with ingredients. They will improvise. They will throw things together like a jazz musician will. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There are no rules when it comes to food except it has to be good or taste good,
Yeah, even if it looks pretty and doesn't taste good, that doesn't quite work.
That's right, exactly.
Man.
Taste, and then after taste, a very close second should be, is this nourishment or is this a drug? Because unfortunately, many things, including food, are used as drugs, as you could see by our obesity epidemic. And I don't think it's just food as far as food by itself, but the chemicals in foods. I noticed that when I leave the United States, when I went to Brazil to visit my girlfriend's family, I would eat and they put food. Brazilians don't play. They put food in front of you and you better eat it. And I gained 5 pounds, but that's it. I plateaued at 5 pounds. Where back in the States, that would have been 10 to 15 on any other day. And I realized that the chicken I was eating was running around the yard earlier. And there's a freshness to food that when you eat processed food, they don't design it for your body. They design it for their pocketbook. Right. You understand that?
That we're going to touch on a little bit when we talk about the movie that you did, Fast Food Nation. But I'm going to come to that in a second. Okay. So next question, person that you would like to most have a drink with, past or present?
Man, so many people. But I got to say, man, that's a lot. But John Lennon, man, John Lennon was a spiritual father for me in a sense through the music of the Beatles. When I ran away from home at 13 and all I had was my Beatles cassettes. Their music, really was a lot of the soundtrack to my growing up. And he was a Libra. He was a tortured soul whose music reflected that pain and was part of the beauty. It was part of the reason why I knew that you could take losing your mom early in life like he did and the pain of his life and turn it into music for others, turn it into inspiration. The song Help. I mean, when have you ever heard such a raw cry for help? I mean, things like that, which today I just don't know. I mean, yeah, there are greats today that in 20, 30 years, I'll be looking back and going, man, when Justin came out with that, whether it's Bieber or whatever,
right.
Like,
that Drake cut was really, man, just
dude,
not quite the same. It's not what's going on.
Yeah, no, oh my God. See, what's going on? That's another one there. Okay. Marvin Gaye. I mean, right there. Yeah. Stevie, who's still alive, whose daughter I'm, on and off friends with because I haven't talked to her in a while. But when I was in town a lot, I took this gal to, I said, you got to hear this music. And she came along with some friends and I was like, would your dad be interested in playing with these cats? He goes, yeah, he might. But then he started getting sick. So, but Stevie Wonder, I mean, Songs in the Key of Life is my 14-year, oh my God, there's just so many though. That's again, it's one of those trick questions that, because my daughter would ask me, what's your favorite color? I'm like, oh girl, I don't know. When I was when I was a kid, it was easier to pick. But once you live a long life and you see, and you go in and out of phases, it's hard to pick one.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. So, Esai, you grew up in Brooklyn, and wanted to touch on your mom again because, in reading a little bit about you and about her, I see that she was a union activist with the Garment Workers Union. You were exposed to that kind of activism early on. And as I alluded to a few minutes ago, you referred to yourself, or at least in some of the things I read, as an actorvist, which I can certainly understand what that term means. But tell me a little bit about that. What it was like around your mom. Was that your inspiration for your activism? And what does activism actually mean to you?
Well, that's a deep question. The older I've gotten now, and at one point in my life, it would have been a much easier, simpler question to answer. And now with all that's going on and what's been happening the last 4 years, it's changed a lot. And my mother was, I believe, the strongest influence, as well as people like John Lennon, who were activists against the war, Vietnam, and other social ills. I remember listening to my mom while I played with my little toy car sets, talk to other people for long times on the phone about how to avoid their abusers, how to get away, how to, whether it's a boss, a lover, or a bad relationship, how to stand up for yourself. She said, no, you have to, and it's just like a tape playing in the background of your mind where I wasn't listening to the specific storylines, but they were falling on in my consciousness, justice, fairness. That's why, I'm a board member of the Screen Actors Guild, even though I'm very frustrated with that. I'm frustrated with politics today. I've been a lifelong liberal Democrat, bleeding heart my whole life, and now I've become rather oddly conservative in my older years, which doesn't mean that I follow everything the conservative sides or Republicans do. But man, I got to tell you, I'm very disappointed in politics in general. I'm very, very disappointed in my home team and the amount of propaganda, and disinformation on both sides. But most importantly, what's driven me away from my traditional views has been the intolerance, the left. The intolerance of cancel culture. They don't want to just, spank you. Oh, they want to stop you from ever making a living. They want to stop you from ever getting paid again. And there's no redemption in that. And I know that it comes from a good place where people want to right the wrongs of the past, but I think you can overdo it. I think you can overstep. And I found that my conversations with certain people on certain sides of the spectrum have become different. And I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed in groupthink. I'm disappointed in media, how all our media is basically funneled into like 5 or 6 mega corporations, and they all think alike. There's a lockstep that if you don't think like they do, you're pretty much on the outs. You're weird. And the fact is that, facts come and go, but reality is, they say you can have you're entitled to your own opinion, but not your own facts. But right now, facts are being questioned. Are they facts? Is this the truth? Are you sure? Who's paying for that study? Wait, who's making money behind the scenes here? We don't check. So I'm a reluctant activist now. I've pulled back from a lot of my usual things because I've learned that a lot of the scripts that I was reading, assuming they all did their homework, I was selling something else. I was selling an agenda without knowing it. And I got to be really careful now. Now, I barely do these podcasts anymore because right now, something you say here innocently or trying to have fun or make a joke or laugh, old school, like what you and I used to laugh at, to get you canceled today. Yeah. In a minute. Yeah. And
I recognize that risk, Esai, and I thank you for doing this. But no, you're absolutely right. And I want to go to a film that you did several years ago, and I'm grateful that I have a chance to talk to you because I had seen this movie several years ago, but I revisited it knowing that I was going to speak with you today, and it's called Fast Food Nation. And it's basically just an indictment on the fast food industry and how it has impacted the way that we consume, from everything from what we eat to global warming to immigrant issues. And I mean, so many things that I'm sure must be, very close to your heart. Just give me your sense of when you did that film, were you of the mindset? Did it inform you in any way? Did you feel like after that you took a look at the fast food industry in a different way?
Well, interestingly enough, I had already felt that. I'd already been there. So when I read that script, I'm like, finally, somebody with the cojones, as they say, to write about this stuff. I mean, I don't know what the PG rating for your audience is, but it's literally talking about shit in your food. You know what I mean? In a literal and a symbolic way. And we are what we eat. And I've known that. And, when they say a lot of people are full of it, yeah, they are in so many ways. You have no idea. But food is the number one medicine. Food, if it's not healing you, it's hurting you. Or it's just keeping you, it's just delaying the inevitable. But food is one of the most important things you can ingest. If not the most important. And the quality of your food should be as high as possible, because I think there's a war. There's war. It's called low intensity conflict, LIC. And I learned about this in studying about the wars that we had. We got rid of slavery in the United States, but enslaved the rest of the continent below us. If you think about our corporations, how they've had their way with people south of our borders, and how much power the American, corporate and food agribusiness, they have a lot of power. So at the end of the day, I think clearer. I make better decisions when I eat better. so just doing that movie to me was like, yeah, you got it. I'll play a bad guy. I'll play a bad guy in a good movie. I'm not going to play bad guys just to be bad. I have an issue with that, being a person of color, going, okay, am I going to be there, step and fetch it? Am I going to be the person who's going to make all of our people look bad? But not necessarily. If the movie is good and he's not bad because he's a person of color, but he has his reasons, then I'll take that character on. So I played a cheesy manager of a fast food joint who's just not on the same level, and who believes that, the girl who's standing up for herself, she's missing out on an opportunity. She could be the manager one day. And it's like, people come at you with their own ideas of success to lure you, and they don't even perceive that you're not even on that same frequency anymore. And that's what I loved about this movie. It's so many big people just pitching together to say, hey, there's something in your food and you're not aware of it, and it's important. And if we don't clean this up, we're contributing to our society's demise. So Fast Food Nation, man, big movie. Absolutely. I'm glad you saw it.
We keep coming back to, and I don't mind elaborating a little bit more on, the impact that diet has on our overall health, and, the gut health trend, I think, is starting to really get some airwaves, and deservedly. Yes. So are you hip to that, man?
Oh my God. Again, I'm getting goosebumps. Gut health is 70 to 80% of your overall health. Because think about it. Where do most things that come in from outside of your body come through? It's through your mouth, depending on your proclivities. And so I'm saying, because people take medications in many different forms, but the mouth is like from your salivary glands, your stomach acids, your intestines. I mean, it goes through a process. So your immune system is very, very much resident in your gut, because it has to filter through, it has to eat, it processes. There are bacteria in all of our stomachs or intestines that create B15 or, certain vitamins, I think B12 to B something. They're there. They're created only in your gut bacteria. So there's so much more that we're learning. That's why I tend to go for natural foods. I say, listen, I supplement as much as I can when it's possible. You also have to take a break from supplements. You don't want to overload your body. But there are certain things you can only get through nature.
Right.
Why? Because when I was a kid, back in the 1900s, as you will recall, I remember when one a day had all the vitamins, and they only went up to like 5 or 6. You know what I mean? It seemed like there were only, the alphabet only went up to K or something. Now they got vitamin P and vitamin this and that, and they have bioflavonoids and CoQ10. They didn't have that when I was a kid, so it wasn't as complete as they thought it was. You know what I'm saying? You get your complete vitamins and minerals. Baloney. There's so much more to food. We're just discovering. And so that's why I don't rely on man-made diet alone. I have to have a lot of nature in me, a lot of leafy greens. There's a reason why the colors of the rainbow are the way they are. They all represent different, phytochemicals and, plant things like orange beta-carotenes, with your oranges and yellows, blues, brain foods, the dark blues, reds. They all have specific qualities. And if all food or all good food was the same color, you'd get deficiencies. So they're colored differently so that you make sure, hey, man, I got enough greens today. Greens you should have every day. Have I got enough reds? Am I getting deep purple and my blues? Get your colors, get your rainbows, because they all fulfill a purpose.
Yeah. I don't think you can have a intelligent conversation these days about food without talking about the necessities that we really have kind of overlooked in our indulgences and our need to get things quickly, fast food and all of that. But, Esai, that the fast food nation also, for me, resonated on a few other levels. And I think, from what I understand, these might be causes that are near and dear to you too. The hospitality industry.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. The hospitality industry is supported by people of color, and it's the second largest employer, I think, in the country after Walmart. And Fast Food Nation reminded me of the trek that some of our citizens who come from Point South, Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, what they do to get to this country for just the opportunity for a better life. I know, as one of the most prominent Latino men in the country and in the world, you must feel something about that when you see that, when you hear that, when you know that segment of our community is not being appreciated for what they have, how they contribute. I mean, Latinos have taken jobs for years in the hospitality industry, quite frankly, that Americans just wouldn't do.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? How did that movie resonated for me in that regard as well? You want to pick up on that a little bit?
Well, for me, it's interesting because one of the things that I've come to learn is that things are cyclical. And in the beginning, what I saw is horrible injustice. Now I've kind of got to say, okay, for that person, that injustice is paying much better than what they had at home. And that injustice right here is better than something else. So on some level, thank God they even have that, because like with the minimum wage going up, I do believe that, people should have subsistence living. Yet I also know that if we regulate too much, all with good intentions, we could kill the golden goose that lays the egg. So there has to be a balance between what you're doing and what you're making and how it's affecting society. So I know certain people that it would not phase too much to pay $15 an hour to their help, and yet other folks will go out of business. So it's a tough situation to be uniform about. But I'll tell you this much: there's some great people come from hardship and work. And who would I rather be? A trust fund kid who doesn't know how to appreciate all that he's inherited, or somebody who had to work as I did as a busboy? I never even made it to waiter before I became an actor. I was a busboy. I, cleaned weird. I worked at a train station and a knish, sold hot dogs. I mean, I did whatever I could. There are other people who do even worse. Yet that makes something of you so that when you do get there, you do not take it for granted. Your children, the big risk that they have is you don't want them to suffer. But at the same time, without some suffering, there is no character. So it doesn't mean that I justify the abuse that happens to our workers. No. But at the same time, I just go, man, what, how do we fix this without breaking it?
Right.
How do we help people earn a livable wage without making it impossible for others to keep the system alive? Because workers, management is a job too. That's another thing, being on one side of an issue. See, I'm a Libra, and a Libra has to balance this and say, okay, I believe in this, but then again, what's the other side? Mm-hmm. So I run a risk of annoying the folks that are very much on one side of an issue by looking at the other. But I say only by looking at both sides sincerely, not just glancing at the other side and thinking, yeah, I know what you're about, but really putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Can you appreciate, the issue at hand? So for me, I see it as a mixed blessing. I see it as horrible that folks have to work for sub-living standard wages, yet you go visit their houses and you see the love. You see what they could do on a shoestring budget and how much joy is in those families, how much connectivity and how much they'll fight with and for each other. And there's just like, really, who's living the life? You know what I mean? I'll tell you right now, and I won't name names, but I had dinner a few times with a certain billionaire family whose grandson took me in and oh yeah, come on, took me in, and they said I drove them around town while they didn't have their stuff here, but I was like their big brother. And then he was like, come here, meet my. And I got to tell you, man, I saw this man berate the staff at a restaurant. I never wanted to be out in public with him again, ever. I don't care how many billions you have. You don't talk to people like that. You don't talk to a grown man, a grown woman like that. I mean, berating them over some BS. Their food wasn't prepared exactly right. Or something. I don't know what it was, but homie just had that right. Yeah. And he was blah, blah, how dare you effing this one, and I did not know where to hide. Mm-hmm. I did not know where to put my face, and I'm like, oh, so if that's what success looks like, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. I'll be fine right here, right below the radar. I don't need everyone to think I'm successful. I need to know I'm loved and I love. And to me, that's success. Whatever I do, I don't care. Whether it's a busboy, I was the best busboy I could be. You know what I mean? I cleaned those tables. I flipped them in record time because I made a game out of it. I was still young and, very hungry. That's the thing about fighters. If they're not hungry, you know what happens.
Yeah.
You know what happens to the guy who took out the English cat. He came back. He wasn't hungry enough. He too busy enjoying success. He got knocked out. It didn't work. So it's a real balance. To go back to your original question, sorry, I'm all over the place. That'll be the name of my podcast, by the way. All over the place with Esai Morales. I'm taking too much time in my answers, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. That
I totally do. I think that the important thing that I got from this also was the importance of balance, and because I do think when we're shouting at one another, we're not listening to one another. And there are certainly two sides to the arguments, to the stories, to cases
minimum
being made.
Two sides, right?
Absolutely. So Esai,
but as a restaurant, can I ask you now real quick? No, let me just turn this on you.
Mm-hmm.
As a restaurant owner, don't you think there are certain things that inhibit your ability to take care of your, do you want more? I mean, how do you feel about the $15 an hour minimum wage thing? Should it be 20?
Yeah.
What if it was 10? I mean, the restaurant business lives and dies on immigrant help right now. That,
absolutely.
Right?
No,
undocumented as well as documented.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings about the minimum wage because depending on the style of restaurant, your front of house employees are taking home a lot more than the $15 an hour. There's, when there's tips involved, but I also understood the other side of that. Well, not every establishment is that true. And in some cases, owners are taking tips and deciding whether or not they want to give those out. So I think we have to continue to inform ourselves about the issues and, not just look at it from our own point of view, try to look at it from the other side. But, having been in the hospitality business my whole life, I just have an immense respect for the people that work in them. And I've had employees of mine that would be sending money home to Mexico and to Guatemala and building houses on land that they own there. And I just always admired the unity and I love that workforce. But before I run out of time, because I could talk to you, man, for quite a bit longer. I think you're just such a fascinating cat. I want to get just a little quick, and I think I've got about a minute left, but how are you optimistic, Esai, given all that's gone on in the world this last year? How do you feel, man? Are you feeling? I know you have a young daughter, and we care. I have a son. We care about the future for our kids. Are you optimistic?
Yes and no. I hate to say that. I hate to be dualistic, but to be quick, I'm optimistic that eventually things will get better. I don't know how long it'll take. I know that we are living under an agenda. What's happening now is not by accident. Nothing that the major media all agrees to, and corporations, big and small, all, print their signs about distancing and masking and all these things. Nothing has that much level of cooperation without it being organized. And there is an agenda. And I'm not down with that agenda. Although when I drive in LA, before the lockdowns and after the lockdowns, I'm like, maybe those lockdowns aren't so bad. I got to tell you, it's like, it's crazy. It's like, oh no, it's opening up again. What I wanted, now it's like, many people. The question isn't that there's too many people and we have to kill a bunch. The question is how do we organize ourselves into meaningful lives? How do we stop people who are not elected from controlling and stealing our rights to breathe free, to be healthy, our rights to be free from mis and disinformation? Do you know that a law was passed, not in this last administration, but probably the one before that, where it's okay for the news to lie to us? They don't have to tell you the truth, whether it's Fox or CNN. They don't have to. They're not obligated, just like the police are not obligated to risk their lives to save you. So I think when we clean up our media, when we allow, the truth more room than things that are brought to you by the makers of this, that, and the other, I think we will have a better society. The question is, when will we have had enough as true, good, and free human beings? I want to be free to live my life as best I know. I want not to be told I have to inject my child with certain things for their own good. I want to be free to do my own research and to talk to my own experts. I don't want force-fed experts. So I think I'm optimistic no matter what happens, but I'm a little nervous about how many people allow themselves to be enslaved mentally. As Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery.
None but ourselves can free our minds, right?
Amen, brother. Amen.
Esai Morales, I hope you keep talking, man, and you've got some very interesting things to say, and I know you're getting ready to travel overseas. My brother, travel safely. We're going to be looking to see you in Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. Please stay safe, Esai, and thank you so much, my brother, for doing this, man. We really appreciate it.
Brad, stay blessed and stay open.
Yes, sir. Peace, man.
Peace. Bye-bye.
Ambassador Shabazz and how we move. What's happening?
Good. I'm great. And you?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling pretty good today. Thank you for asking. Yes, so Mr. Morales had some things to say, huh?
Oh, my God. I mean, first of all, he's from our neck of the woods here in New York region. And there's always such a nostalgic smile I have when I listen to people, no matter where we've traveled to in the world, to be able to always anchor. It's affirming about what New York brings us. And, in the slice of a 2-hour film or television show, you think you know who Esai Morales is. He's always been beautiful, talented, notwithstanding. And the interview just revealed the dimensions of the brother.
Yeah.
From high school, meaning influences from his parents, all the way to now and how he carries himself and the dare to change or grow with convictions, explore them, whether they're popular or not, because you're growing. And his evolution expressed on the corner table talk. And I'm sure it's with the comfort of talking to you that he, dares to venture into these areas that he seemed to be really introspective and reflective and explorative, and when I listened to him, I realized, some of it was discovery during, giving language to during, and I appreciated, that, so often we have interviews and people have pat answers.
Right. His were not. Did you happen to catch him in Ozark?
No, I didn't see Ozark.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, but he plays a convincing gangster.
Well, as it is in his era, when he started, people of color were gangsters. I mean, our roles were not always the things that you champion, but as he said, you try to do them convincingly in the context of the role. What this interview today gives us, or this conversation, this exchange, this brother-to-brother conversation, just lets you know the dimensions of who he is as a New Yorker, as a Puerto Rican brother, as an actor, as a father. And I found it fascinating as he spoke about just health and his approach to health and wellness and getting himself ready, not just for a role, but just to feel better. And so when we talk about the Caribbean or people of color in our diets and our cognizance of that we're in control of how we get to feel it at any given time. And he said some really little cool nuggets on there that you referenced, writing down and taking note. And I thought they needed to be on a T-shirt just so that we are reminded, detox and retox, so we know we need to be healthier, but after we do that detox, how do we get back to that place of de-retox? I mean, little clever things he said, but even more important, it makes me want to have a conversation with him because he seems to be a real journeyman. And I thought about vegan restaurants in Puerto Rico. Do they exist? And I came across this one called Dreamcatcher. Have you heard of it?
No. Mm-mm.
Dreamcatcher. It makes me want to go down. It's part of the United States. It's the 50th
Tell me about it.
Or something. Well, it's there in Old San Juan, and it's a small little bed and breakfast, and they focus on complete wellness. It's quaint. It's easy. It's breakfast and or brunch, not a full menu. But everything is fresh, and you get to be a part of the selection of what those juices are, the meals, and it focuses on not just vegetarianism, but also gluten, and other kinds of elements and enzymes for the body's wellness. I mean, do we ever hear about that in context to the Caribbean, unless it's a really large hotel chain or something? But this, I liked it. It's quaint. The activities during the day just take you around the culture. Mm-hmm. And so I thought about him in that context and how many more live like that, but we don't actually showcase the fact that we're trying to find that down-home environment, but the environments that are good for us.
Unfortunately, the news that we've heard about Puerto Rico lately has not been, the best. Obviously, the hurricanes and, the following, just the breakdown of the infrastructure there. But Puerto Rico is absolutely beautiful. And old San Juan is as charming as it gets. So take us a little bit further there with you.
In that case, it really is just about who's telling our stories, right? Mm-hmm. Who's sharing our news. And so we have to do that, so when you can go from one extreme and have a real health conscious component, or like you and I with a sweet tooth, you can venture over to, Lulo's Sweets, young sister who, Andrea Santiago, who has a kind of pastry menagerie of down there in Old
Say that again, a pastry
menagerie.
Whoa.
When I look at the menu,
you and I are right there, aren't we? Pastry menagerie.
Miney and Mo, right? You want to try all of it. And it ranges, from the things that people would associate, such as a creme brulee, or things that were comfortable here in the United States, like a carrot cake, or much more accustomed to Latin culture, tres leches. And then there's so much in between, pies and cakes. And, I want to hold on to the spatula. That's the kind of thing, I want to stand around her. And so all of these things exist. And do we know the best of Puerto Rico? Do we know the best of Puerto Rico as a member of the Caribbean? Do we know the best of Puerto Rico as an extended American state or territory outside of the devastations or inclusive of the devastations? We should always be able to tell our stories, the wound and the triumph.
Yes, the wound and the triumph, the health and the sweets. A little balance is what we're talking about on how we move today.
That's right. I'm not mad.
Ambassador Shabazz, as always, it's a pleasure. And I think we're stacking up these trips, but I think a visit to Puerto Rico is in order. What do you say?
No, absolutely. And we don't need a passport. And I speak a little Spanish.
Oh, yeah. There you go. We're in. All right. Well, thanks so much. And I will see you soon.
Sayonara.
Bye-bye.
Corner Table Talk is hosted by Brad Johnson, produced by Brad and Linda Ailes Johnson, coordinating producer Lauren Turner, theme music Life Goes On by Bryce Vine, executive producers Omar Thompson, Andrew Kalb, and Ken Johnson. Find the Corner Table Talk podcast wherever you get your podcast. Follow, subscribe, rate, and leave a comment. Corner Table Talk is a Say It Loud Network production.